Our homes, pretty important to us, right? Home's where the heart is. Home's where you hang your hat. Home, sweet home. All those Norman Rockwellian sayings may disguise the fact that too often people are discriminated against when it comes to housing, and that may not just be buying or renting a dwelling, but financing it, even insuring it. When questions do come up, the place to turn for answers as to what is legal, what isn't legal, what your rights are, is the Fair Housing Center of Toledo. The nonprofit's president and CEO, Marie Flannery, joining me. You came to Toledo from Ontario, California, I assume for the weather.
Yes.
But you also worked on housing issues out there. Had you, be honest with me, had you heard of the Fair Housing Center of Toledo?
Oh, absolutely.
They're almost iconic in the field, are they not?
They absolutely are. You know,
Now I can say you are.
No. Right, but the Fair Housing Center itself started back in 1977, and Shauna Smith, the first director, and then Lisa Rice. Shauna went on to DC to found the National Fair Housing Alliance, and then Lisa Rice is now the CEO. So, so many of the cases that set national precedents for fair housing came out of Toledo.
Out of Toledo, Ohio.
Yes.
They have been very, very active at the Fair Housing Center. I am reading that over the course of the lifetime of this nonprofit, over 12,000 housing complaints investigated, generating some $33 million in damages for victims or neighborhood reinvestment.
Yes.
What, Marie, are the issues of discrimination that you all are dealing with that people may not even know is discrimination?
So right now, we are dealing a lot with sexual harassment in housing, a lot of familial status, discrimination based on...
Sexual harassment takes what form in housing?
So a housing provider and someone that works for the housing provider, like a maintenance person, the landlord, you know, basically quid pro quo. That word's been in the news a lot lately, but you know, this for that.
They're accepting something other than cash for rent.
Yeah, basically.
Serious?
Or
in our town?
requesting it. Yes. Yes, or requesting that, or just what's considered a, you know, a hostile environment, making it very uncomfortable because of sexual comments and things of that nature.
Okay. They bring it to you. What do you guys do with it?
So we investigate, and we assist folks in filing complaints with, for example, HUD or the Ohio Civil Rights Commission, or hooking them up with private counsel so that they can, you know, file lawsuits.
Let's take a look at something here, because let's talk about who has protection. I believe this is from the federal government, right? Has protection. These are so-called protected classes, and as you see right there, protected under the Fair Housing Act. You can't be discriminated against on the basis of race or color, national origin, religion, sex, disability, familial status, military status, although I'm told that is just a state-level protection.
Yes.
And sexual orientation actually isn't protected federally. Some locals, including Toledo and Bowling Green, where I live, have taken that on.
Yes.
Familial status, you said that is a hot button issue. I have a nice place I fixed up I want to rent, but I want to rent it to adults because kids are tough on stuff. Can I rent and say you can't have kids?
If it's a 55 plus or a 62 plus designated senior community, otherwise, right, so familial status discrimination deals with the presence in the household of children under 18 or in the process of adopting, fostering, you know, those kinds of things, but dealing with the presence of children. And generally speaking, no, you cannot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
And so you need to know that if you're out there with kids and you have been told no, because is it, Marie Flannery, President and CEO, Fair Housing Center, is it hard to prove? Because the landlord or the seller of a house will probably come up with some other reason. They know what the real reason is over there, but they're going to come up with some reason for not doing business with someone.
Right.
Does that make it tough to prove that?
Well, if it's a situation where it's a whether or not to rent to, then we have some investigative tools at our disposal, such as testing, where you know, you send like individuals to the person that's alleging the discrimination into a situation to try and rent the property. So in this case,
kind
someone
of
with children. Yes, yes, yes.
I like it.
And then you also send in someone that's not of that, so someone that does not have children, and you compare apples to apples.
If they got the same response.
How they're treated, what they were told, were they provided the same information, all of that.
I was talking with somebody, or maybe because I read up on you guys before I have you on.
Thank you.
Maybe, because you may be out there saying, well, I think my thing is just probably a standard landlord-tenant thing. Maybe the question to ask when dealing with a landlord you're having some issues is, correct me if I'm wrong, Am I being treated differently than the rest of the tenants?
That is one way. Oftentimes, folks feel like they're being treated differently, and that's where our investigations come in, because not everybody knows every tenant, and you think, and so maybe a situation person is a, an equal opportunity discriminator.
Yeah.
But in the sense that if you feel it's because of a protected basis, like the ones you name, like race, gender, things like that, then we ask people to contact us, and then we do an intake. And
so you talk about contact. Let's put up some contact information. Here's how to get a hold of the folks at the Fair Housing Center. I think we have it for you right there. 419-243-6163 or Toledo FHC, Fair Housing Center, .org. And then you had some suggestions. I mean, keep everything you can, right? Applications, receipts, any documentation, and write down as many details, names, events, numbers as you can.
Yeah, we encourage people, if they feel like they're in a discrimination situation, to start keeping a journal of, dates, times, things that happen, a contemporaneous, document as it's happening.
Very good.
Yeah.
I know you also are reaching out to the community. You educate people in the communities. They advocate for people on issues of fair housing and housing discrimination. And you have some events coming up, and I want to put these up because it's happening pretty soon here. December 4th, and you're going to have one in the afternoon over at the Kent Branch Library, and then that evening at Able. Okay. What's happening at those? Who do you want to attend those, Marie?
So we are in the process of conducting an analysis of impediments to fair housing choice, preparing this document for the city of Toledo. It's one of the things that HUD requires them to do as recipients of federal dollars.
Yeah.
And that's where we look at the whole fair housing picture for the city. And part of that process is to get community input. So residents that are interested in, issues of fair housing, but also community leaders, those, who other nonprofits who are also serving these same folks. We're encouraging them to come. This is part of our community engagement in preparing the analysis of impediments.
You have a lot of rights. So many people in all those categories are protected under the Federal Fair Housing Act. Marie Flannery and her group have a reputation in this community of not taking any stuff from anybody.
We try.
I cleaned that one up a little bit. It's nice to have you at my table. You can come back
Thank you.
She just passed her first year in town. I don't know how you spent a year in Toledo without being on leading edge, but we're not going to let that happen again.
All right.
Okay.
Well, that's a deal.
All right, Marie, nice to meet you.
You too.
And I'll be right back.